Hello all, welcome to another edition of the Low Code Café. This is episode number 153 for January 10, 2024. Today we're going to be talking about using connected forms, various techniques that make that very nice in a tab view. And so we will be digging into connected forms feature. I don't think we spent much time on it in past episodes. Let me introduce myself. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant and App, capably joined by Patrick Anderson. We have this is an event we do on Wednesdays. It's a bi-weekly meeting webinar that we do where we do updates, demos, hands-on code. Low coding is the biggest feature. So we oftentimes, and in times past, we've had guests. So we invite you, if you have something of interest to the community, to let us know, be our guest speaker, and we will host you on this. You can show off your work. All these episodes are recorded, and mistakes and all, they're out there for you to view on youtube.com/plantandapp. So you can sign up for that and get notified when we post new episodes. Our agenda today, we will talk about some things from the trenches of support and then get to hands-on low-code development. You're welcome to engage with us. You can use the chat window, the question and answer window here in Zoom. You can raise your hand if you'd like to speak and ask a question. And then after it's all over, there's a feedback form, and hopefully Patrick will put those links on the chat here in a minute so you can get to all of that. Just talking generally about our schedule. Again, this is a bi-weekly event, so our next live webinar will be 2 weeks from today, January 24th. Great, let's get into what's going on in support. And at this point, we are just letting you know about some hot fixes. The version 125 of the software has been a particularly long development version, so we've released 76 different hot fixes, fixing small things here and there around the product, and today we're releasing 2 more. Just a reminder that as you get into the updates window within our configuration, that you can see updates that are available to you, and you can install these hotfixes. But some hotfixes require App Builder version 125, so 164 or above. So just watch for that and make sure that you install the higher version of App Builder before you go on to these other hotfixes. I will say generally that the hot fixes are recommended if you're experiencing any of the issues that are being addressed by hot fixes. The stability of the product has grown more and more through this version, and so we're pretty comfortable with these higher versions of the 1.25 release. So there should be 2 hotfixes out there that I haven't discussed or that have been introduced since our last Low Code Cafe. One is in Listing Builder, and it fixes 4 different things. So there was an intermediate release in this version that had an issue where when you have 2 views in a listing, for example, a card view and a listing view or a data table view, that if you had both of those enabled, you couldn't get to one that it was broken. So that's fixed. Some changes in the area of root buttons when you're working with mobile. If you're trying to display an image, the image rendering was assuming that the image that you wanted to display was local to your instance, and we've fixed that. If your images are elsewhere, other URLs, that's now fixed. And then we're returning to our, in all cases, we no longer load Bootstrap. There was a release here intermediate where we were loading Bootstrap onto the page, and in certain conditions we're no longer doing that. So in general, the rule is Bootstrap 5 is what's currently released, that your skin the page skin should load Bootstrap 5 if you're using Bootstrap 5 in our modules. Also within Page Builder, there was a couple of changes. This is all relating to the Page Builder. One is a fix where if a HTML module was also added to the page, that Page Builder wasn't working, persona bar wasn't working, so that's fixed. And then as a small enhancement built in, actually this came in as a feature request from our community website, but the Page Builder gear, and I'll show you this in a little while, has better identification of the different modules that you're going to edit, and also has the ability to let you open it in a new page. So there's some nice, if you're using Page Builder, some nice enhancement that is convenient. I mentioned Low Code Campfire. This is an event we do every week on Fridays, the same hour. So do look for that link on the chat. It's a opportunity to get in with your fellow low coders. You'll have opportunity to either help them or perhaps be helped, and we always learn something in that hour. So here are the links that I mentioned. You can get to the Low Code Campfire, the webinars, the community portal, and give us feedback on this event, either what you'd like to see or what you thought about any particular episode. So here we go into the hands-on low coding, where we're going to talk about a connected forms approach, doing multiple tabs. And so we start off. Here's let's kind of introduce this, and I'm going to do this by way of just giving an overview of the solution that we're going to accomplish today. I have a set of forms, and the scenario is perhaps you're building a buy now button, but really this applies to any case where you have various information coming in, and you don't want one big long form to enter it all. So you want to be able to divide it up into logical areas. Maybe conditionally, you want to show the form in some cases and not in other cases. So I've seen this, for example, be used where we have a client right now who's building where they're doing an application where somebody will be visiting their website and applying for something, and they have to fill in information about themselves, the products they want, how they're going to pay for it, that kind of thing. And so dividing it up visually is useful. So in ours, to just kind of keep it in a easy to consume way, we're going to create a buying experience. So we have sold to, who did we sell it to? The ship to is where is this going to be shipped? Made any special instructions that we want to include in the order, and then finally a buy now button, and maybe we'll do some summarization for when they place the order, and they'll click buy now, and it'll bring the information from all of these different places into one and store it however they're going to process the order. We're really not going to focus today on the processing of the order, but just the gathering of information. So that's our setup. Let's see how this works. The only preparation that I've done so far is to create a page for this. So you're going to see all of it being built. So hopefully anyone following along behind, this will be a good tutorial on using connected forms. I'm putting it on the Campfire website, campfire.plantanapp.com, so that if you have access to the Campfire website, which is the shared website that we put together for people who participate in Campfire, you'll be able to go in and look behind the scenes and see the exact coding of this. So if your need for connected forms comes sometime in the future and you want to explore it, you'll be able to look at it on campfire.plantanapp.com. And anyone who needs access, you can just contact support and we'll provide that. Okay, so here we are. We've got our blank slate, and let's see about what we're going to build. So here it is with the initial setup that we're going to do. We've got the new page. We're going to do one tab control that has 4 tabs, those 4 areas that I showed you. And then on each of them, we're going to have a form put in with them. And then, so that's the setup that we're going to do. The next phase we'll get into in a minute, but it'll be about setting up the Buy Now button and how we're going to bring all those fields together. So let's get started. Using the edit icon down here on the lower left, we can start adding modules to a page. The first one we want to do is a tab module. And so we'll do, it's called ABT Tabs Pro. And we can drop that on the page. And I think what I'm going to do, let's see, tabs, I'm going to use the settings of it to rename it. So this is going to be our Save Now tabs. It's useful to name things because, for example, when you are using, if you're using Page Builder, this gear icon appears and you have the ability to see it here and under the name that it is. So Save Now tabs appears. In our tabs, and I'll just point out, you can use the default access. If you're not using Page Builder, you would use something like Manage Tabs, use the edit icon. But we're going to be using the Page Builder gear icon, very convenient to get to. And when you click on it, you now have the ability, you can either select it and it'll slide out, or if you prefer, you can click on it and right click and open it in a new tab, which is awfully convenient during development to be able to switch back and forth quickly as you do things. So with the tabs control, we have, we're just going to start creating our tabs. So the first one is going to be the Sold To tab. We'll have another one that's the Ship To tab. Another one that will be the Special Instructions. And then finally, we'll have another one for Buy Now. When you do, and we'll refresh here, we'll see now what we get is these tabs exist and you'll be able to click onto them, but we don't have anything in them yet, so they don't make a lot of sense yet. So what we're going to do now is add the forms that we need. So we will add an action form and put it on the page. And this one is going to, we'll do it through this, through settings. This is going to be our Sold To form. That. And I'm going to save configuring them for a little while. And then within tabs, you can use in our Sold To tab, we can say that we want the Sold To module to appear inside of it and save. And when we refresh, now this module appears inside of Sold To instead of out floating around. So we'll repeat that to do for Ship To. We'll add another form. Call it Ship To form. I don't know if you're catching it, but when the page redraws, we're seeing this one appear outside and inside of the tab for just a minute. It appears outside and then gets brought in. That's a nice visual thing that it's a nice setting to know about. So within tabs, there is a setting that says that you want to show it only when fully loaded, and that helps to keep that design design issue to a minimum. And then the other thing that we're doing, we created ship to form. So now we're going to say that we want the ship to form to also display inside the ship to tab. And so now when we load, we have sold to in one, we have ship to that's also there. We've got a special instructions that we haven't populated yet. So let's go ahead and get that done. And it's still flashing a little bit. That may be because I'm in edit mode. So we'll read this one. Side the special instructions tab. Notice that as we get more and more modules, they all the modules that are on the page appear in the select modules section. That's why it's very important to name them so that you can see which ones you're adding. And it doesn't have to be done one at a time like this, but I find it convenient to just keep track of just kind of doing them one at a time. So then our final one is a buy now. And so here we go, we'll add that one as well. Put that inside of a tab. And I am going to close out of edit mode and let's see if this improves that visual experience. So now when we refresh, they show up for a fraction of a second there, but now everything is on tabs and we have our forms ready to go. All right. So we'll start configuring these one at a time. The sold to needs to have customer type information. And I am going to use a shortcut. Normally you could start from doing a blank form, but we can also start from a contact form. Contact form has contact type information. This is a standard functionality that people often use. And so it gives us first name, last name, email, phone. There's things I don't need on here, so I don't need the contact form. Normally when you fill it in, it sends an email to somebody. I don't want to send an email, so I'm going to get rid of that. I don't need a loading bar, a message, or a subject, so I'm just going to clear some things out. It leaves us with first name, last name, email, all as text boxes. And you're going to see that these have validators that they're required. First name, last name, email are required to fill in. You'll see how that plays in a second. So we'll save that and go back. So here's what we get: first name, last name, email, phone, all showing on sold to. Our ship to, let's see, we're going to need, I guess we need address as well. So let's, and I'm going to be simplistic about this. We'll just put address without breaking it into all the different pieces, but you could do that if you wanted to. So this is our ship to form. And again, I'm just going to open this in a new tab for convenience. And so we'll, that's the ship to I wanted sold to. Gotta get the right one. Did I not get the sold to form? Did I not name it correctly? Or maybe maybe the name. All right. When it initialized, it changed its name back. That's a nice bug that we can mention to development, Patrick. Well, this is the sold to form. Nope. Yes. Sold to form. We're going to add an address field, which will just make it be a text box. This is going to be address and layout. We'll put it. Yeah, we'll just leave it there where it is after. All right. So first name, last name, email, phone, address. So now we're going to run into that same bug in every one of these other ones. So we'll fix it as we go. We're also going to create this as a contact form because it's going to have the same type of information. We'll do the same cleanup. And so this is our ship to form. Message, no subject, and we need to, so we'll save that much to get them out of the way, and then we will add a text box. That. Notice when I click save, it saves very, very fast. We've in later versions of 125, we've added improved caching, so things move much faster in the saving. Previously, we've had a little bit longer delay, so that's another reason that you might apply some upgrades to 125. All right, so we go back and take a look at what we have. So now we have a sold to that looks like this, a ship to that is almost identical. You can't even really tell that it's a different form because it looks identical. We now need to do special instructions. So we'll say manage form. This is going to be a blank form. It doesn't have the same kind of thing. So this is our more normal start where we just put in whatever we want. That bug really isn't a bug. It's something that comes in as part of that
The template, yeah.
Okay. So we have a special instructions form. We're going to add a large text to this. And this is going to be, we'll just say instructions. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on design of these things. So when we look now at the special instructions tab, we have instructions and a big box to fill in. And finally, our Buy Now tab will manage that as a blank form and say that we're just going to add a button that says Buy Now. So this gives us our basic structure: sold to, ship to, special instructions, buy now, and we've got a kind of an empty canvas that we can work with to improve this and provide work on connected forms. So that's the initial setup. We've added the buy now button, and so now let's get into the core of what is connected forms. We want to bring all these forms together into one place and to be able to work with them. If we open the Buy Now form, we have a Buy Now button. Connected Forms happens here, right above the on-click handler. You can see Connected Forms, and it says, gives you the idea of what you can do with this. So other action form modules from the same page, which is where we are, and we're going to submit them together. All the information from all these are going to be available together, and it tells you you're going to have access to all the fields, and it gives you a couple of notes about what things are not available, things that don't happen. So pay attention to those. But here's how to configure connected forms. You click Add, and you say, I want to bring in the sold to form, and I'm going to give it internally a name of sold to. So I'll be able to access the fields with this sold to tag. Ship to, we'll be able to access with the ship to tag and special instructions form. Again, another really great reason to name your forms instead of seeing ABT action form, whatever, it's showing you it's the special instructions form. And I'm going to call that instructions. So what that means is that in our on-click section, we can access the fields on this form being the buy now form, plus also all these other ones. And to demonstrate that, I'm going to demonstrate it in two ways. First of all, I'm going to do a display error message and display one field. So, for example, we can, I don't think this works. Nope, it doesn't work in this instance. What we can say is that the sold to name is, and then we can use this tag, sold to, and then I believe its name is, it's going to be called first name. So we can say first name. And that's it. We're just going to show that here we are over on the buy now form. We're getting access to the any field that we want from the connected form. So we're going to just grab sold to. We're showing, I'm using display error message just to quickly display that this display information that would not typically be used after you get the form into production. So we can put in a name and then go to buy now and click the buy now button. And the first thing that you're going to see is that it's doing the validation. So it's saying that instead of doing that action that has the error, any fields that has been defined as required, it switches to that tab and, or at least the first one where that's an issue, and then shows you the error message. So email was defined as a required field. So we'll fill it in. And then we go back to our buy now button and click again. And we see that there are errors on the ship to tab, and all these fields are required as well. Instead of filling them in, I'm going to adapt a little bit and say that the ship to ones, I don't really want to make them required. So I'm going to open up the ship to form. We'll make that adjustment. Say that the email is, that's a validation, not required. The last name, validation, not required. Same with first name. So I'm going to refresh the page to get all this new development. Notice that when I refresh the page, all these come in blank. We've lost our information, and that's the second piece of what we're going to do here in a minute with save state, load state to make these forms more durable. So I know I have to fill in my information. So we'll do that. We go to our buy now, and buy now no longer is, we're not getting errors on the ship to, and because we removed the required, and then sold to name Dale, we were able to pull this name when we click the button. The required field stuff works, but it's just demonstrating that we can pull in our connected forms that all these fields are being submitted and we can work with them. So for example, in my buy now button, right now we're just doing a display error message just to prove that we have the values available to us. But this would the normal thing to do, for example, would be that if you probably would want to write the order out to a to whatever your order tables are. The sold to information goes here, the ship to goes there. Any other information that you collect, that you would save it and make it available to for the next steps. Again, we're not going to do that part of the work today. If there are any questions along the way, that's the first part and the main part about connected forms, how to connect them and use them. I'm going to show a feature that I've mentioned to our campfire group, that I've confirmed this is something that we're going to add to the product, the ability to get everything, all the variables that are, or context tokens, out of, to be able to display them all in a batch, in a group, and provide you access to it. Because while for example, when I was constructing this, I just had to know that I had the sold to comes from here, but the first name, I had to know the name of the field, and it was easy to find. It would, if we look on the sold to form, we'll open that in a new tab. We can see that there is a field named first name, and that's how I knew that I could what was in there. So this buy now form on Click Handler has all of this information available, but what information is available? Well, I have this, I have an action that's going to help reveal this, and this action that I'm about to show is a custom one. It's available to you. If you need it, you can again contact me or become part of the campfire group. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on Friday, but you can get access to this action. And then, but we are going to be adding this action to the product so that you'll have it without having to install a special add-on, special extension. But this action that this custom one that I wrote, and just shows how easy it is. If you can do a little bit of C# code, you can write your own action, and that's what I did here. I wrote an action that returns all the context token as a JSON array. I'm going to call this, it has an output of JSON array, and I'm just going to say full JSON. So what this does then, instead of displaying just one thing, I'm going to display all this full JSON. This is going to give me everything out of the context. And so now when I click the button, I get everything. So I can see that there's and let me put this into a nice JSON viewer so we can see it. But every field on the form, so there's a buy now button, there's the sold to first name, sold to last name. And so this reveals all of the data that's on the forms, or in the context, and shows you the right names to use to access them. So again, if you're doing dynamic form, if you're doing connected forms, this might be of value to you to get a hold of this tool. In the next coming months, that action will be available in the product as well. Okay. So this is just demonstrating then that whatever we fill in, let's fill in some special instructions. Whatever the special instructions that we do, if we click buy now, we get a new thing. The instructions has send only to arrive on Wednesday. So all the information is brought together in one spot, and from there you would go on to, as I mentioned, save your order or do whatever editing, auditing, processing that you need to do. All right. So that is connected forms and the buy now button. So now let's talk about, we're going to move on to some durability things using save and load state. So let's take a look at I'm just going to refresh the page. And if I go to, notice that if you refresh the page, this all starts out blank. The sold to is empty, shipped to, special instructions, everything's blank. So there's this nice construct, this action that's called save state that says that we can save whatever's on this form. We don't have to know all the fields that are on there. We just want to save everything on that form and put it somewhere so we can get it back. And that's what save state does. The load state is the thing that brings it back. So let's do some save state. What the goal that I'm trying to do then is that automatically, without any interaction from the user, just the information that they do or in their normal course of working with this information is going to get saved automatically. And it's going to happen as they switch from tab to tab. So it'll save the information when they move away from sold to get to the buy now button. It's just going to save it. And that'll help us make it persist. So let's see. I'm just going to focus on the ship to form now. So I'm going to close these other things and we're just going to be working with ship to. In the events section of form, there are tab events that we rarely talk about because we don't do a bunch with tabs on Low Code Cafe, but that's what we're doing today. And so there's two tab events, one that's when you leave a tab, one when you enter a tab. So what we want to do is to save the state when we're leaving the tab. And so we can add an action that says save state. And here it is here, save state. And it gives us a couple of things that we need to fill out. First, it's one of the things is where we're going to save it, and I'm just going to work today with server session. It's going to be nice transient way to place to put things, and then the key is you're basically giving it a storage location, and we really need to do a little bit of work before we do this because we need it to have a unique storage location per session that the user has. So I'm going to introduce one more concept here. It will be on this ship to. I'll display it on the ship to form, but as an event, when we come in, I am going to create. Let me find it here on my notes. We're going to create something called a transaction key or a transaction ID, whatever. I'm going to call it transaction key. But this is going to be done through creating and updating a token. And what we'll do is add, and what we want to accomplish is to set session, creating transaction key. And we want it to be equal to something. And the something that we want it to be equal to is there is I'm going to jump out here to show you where I get this information. I'm going to go into the configuration section of Plant an App and look in tokens. First of all, I'll show you. I'm using set session, and this shows you the context, the usage, how to do a set session. But there's another one called GUID, and you can either use GUID new or GUID new compact. Doesn't you get different results? I'm going to use GUID new here just as an example. But this is going to GUID is a unique identifier, guaranteed unique identifier, and so I'm going to say GUID new. So when we load this page, we're going to get a transaction key with a new unique identifier. You have to provide a token name. I'm not using this at all other than to evaluate this session, this token, to get this token to be generated. So, but I will just give it a name of dummy just to let me know I'm not planning to use this. And this, yeah, this won't actually return anything. It'll return a blank anyway. One of the key things though is we only want to assign a new transaction key the first time. So if the session transaction key is blank, Then we want to assign a new one. So this will just get it to where it only happens once. And so just with this one action, now we're creating a transaction key. And I'm going to copy this because I'm going to need it here in a minute. You want to make sure that your spelling is identical here so that it gets not a programming mistake. And so we'll save this and refresh. Well, behind the scenes, the page load is running, and we got a transaction key that got generated, but we don't know what it is. So just for convenience, just to demonstrate that it does in fact work, we'll add a static text onto the form, and we can say and that pasted transaction, so session transaction key. So this is just going to show me that it did in fact work. Did it on the ship to form here. Okay, here we go. So the transaction key is this. And every time I refresh, we're going to get the same key back because it's this action only, this event only works when the session key is blank. So it's just going to do it once and never again. So now we have a good transaction key. It's stored away in the session variable. All right. I get confused between ship to and sold to. I promised that we were working on sold to, so I'm going to clean this up and do it the way I had intended. So I'm going to export this action and delete it from here, and delete it from here. It doesn't. I really wanted it on sold to, so I'm going to clean up my mess and try and do it right this time. But you'll get to see me again, see me do it again. So here's the sold to form. Doing it in the right place here. I can import my action. So now it's where I had intended to put it, and we'll put the proof back here. That text. So now we're on the sold to form, and we have this transaction key, and notice it's not changing, it's remaining at 5cc, whatever. So now that we have a transaction key, we have this nice unique thing that identifies this one buy now transaction, and we can use that to persist our information. So on our sold to form, in these events that I was talking about before, we're going to add an event. When we leave, we're going to do save state. We're going to do a server session is where we're going to store that, and we'll need to know that we're using the server session when we do load state, but that's the only implication of that. And then what we're going to the key that we're going to use to store it is the transaction key plus sold to. And so what that means is all of the information from this form, doesn't matter what information is on the form, is going to be stored in something with the GUID and the word sold to. It's unique among every user because every user is going to get a different transaction ID. So these are all isolated one from another. Okay, so that's save state, and it's going to happen when we leave the tab. So then, kind of to make this useful, we're going to use the opposite one, load state. And we're going to use the same key so that it's loading from the location that we expect. And we're going to continue to use that server session, the one that matches. And so what this says is when you enter this tab, it's going to go get all this, it's going to get the state from, going to get the data from the state. And so all the fields are that were saved previously are now loaded, and we need to do one more thing, an update form action. The update form Ajax says take all these these values that came in and display them in the fields where they are. All right, so let's see with those few changes what we get out of this. So kind of refresh to make sure I'm all up to date. And so we'll start filling in. When I tab away, this is being saved in the state automatically. And when I tab back, it's being restored automatically. However, if I refresh, it's not being restored because that logic is only on tab enter. So in our sold to form, in our events section, I will add on, we can put it in on pre-init. We'll add that same load state. I could copy it as well, but we're going to use the same key, sold to, and server session. And so now with that change, when we refresh, this is showing whatever is in the state is being persisted. Put in an email address and when we tab away, it saves it into the state. When we tab back, it restores it. If we refresh, it restores it. So now this form becomes very durable and we don't have to do it field by field. Cool. So that's with sold to. Let's do the same thing with ship to. Again, this really doesn't have anything to do with connected forms. This is making your forms very durable as you go and some other fun things that we're about to do. So let's do the same thing with our ship to form. So we have in our events, we'll do a on tab leave. The save state is going to be the key for this one is going to be ship to. It's a different. We want to save these variables in a different place so that we have access to them separately. But they're going to still say in session, that's where they live. And then when we enter, a state to that same key. And this time I'm going to export this action and import it pre-init. So when the form gets refreshed, it will also load it to back to this ship to form. All right. Once you know what you're doing, it doesn't take very long. So now when we refresh, both sold to and ship to are automatically durable. The save state is doing that for us. So let's say that we wanted to ship it to the same person as the sold to. So there's a couple of different ways that we could accomplish that. What my plan is we'll put a button in here that says same as sold to. When you click it, that button could use connected forms to retrieve this information, but I'm going to use save state. This is a nice load state actually is a nice way to get that accomplished as well. So we're going to go into our ship to form and add a button called same as sold to. the action that it's going to do when they click it is going to be a load state. And the key we're going to use is we're going to load the sold to from the same location. And we'll do an update form, Ajax action. So any fields, any tokens with the same name are going to get overwritten. If it's a different name, it would be left alone. But the fact that these two forms are so similar, we're looking at and there's all the fields are the same: first name, last name, email, phone, address. The same between sold to, shipped to. So when we run this action, we're pulling in sold to and then updating, and it'll just bring it in. So we have a sold to with all of my information, we have a shipped to with Patrick's, and we have this same as sold to. We click the button and it brings them all in. And then as we tab away, it being saved as the saved into the state now in the ship to section. So it's automatically durable for that. So that's a one way to use that. Another way is let's take our buy now. Let's say that we wanted to show that this order was for whoever the sold to first name, last name is. And just by tabbing over here, you want to display something from another tab. We can use load state to grab that information as we go into the buy now and build a first name, last name display. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to so we've got our sold to form here that has first name and last name. We're going to work with the buy now form, so I'll get that open. What we're going to do is add a static text. This is the we'll name it. It doesn't really matter, but we'll name it. And the name that we're going to show is first name I'm going to do this much right now and show you what we get. Refresh and go to buy now. It doesn't have any idea who first name, last name is yet, so it just comes up in this unresolved token. But if in the events for this on tab enter, if we say load state from that same sold to key, then the variables first name and last name now have value as we come in. And again, we need an Ajax. But this is going to get the data out of load the data out of session and into context, and then as we work with this form, we'll have it. So let's see now as we navigate our tabs, we have Dale Warner, and we click over to buy now. Form. Um, Patrick, do you see my mistake? Let's see it yet. Load state sold to.
You have those in a static text. Do you need to? Oh, that should,
Yeah,
yeah.
it probably doesn't need to be in a static text. So let's tell you what we can do. The static text is called display the name. We'll get that.
That's what,
And
yes, I can suggest.
in, we'll do a we have to take tokens to display the name, and it'll say name is. So we'll forcibly push it there, and then date Ajax. So yeah, there it is. So you can get some nice effects as you're tabbing from one to the other. Um, and it just automatically displays, which I know, for example, one client is using this where they're collecting first name, last name on a on one page, and then concatenating them, and it goes into a different field as Mr. Dale Warner together in another field, and so to have that automatically display and propagate from one page to another as just as you're tabbing is kind of a nice interface. All right. So we talked about using low state, safe state for durability. We can use it for retrieving data. We can display data as you tab around. So that's the um, so the key takeaways, you can design a very nice tabbed interface to do complex data entry and segregate the different areas so that people are being presented with not just one huge form, but different form sections. Uh, it's also possible to, yeah, I'll just a second. Um, it's also possible to use that as um, uh, being able to adapt the forms that you're presenting based on the data that's present, the conditions that are present on the form. Yes, Patrick.
I was just going to say that Justin brings up a good question, and that is good for clarification. That sold to namespace for the connected forms is in the context of that button. So I don't think, Dale, that you can't use that sold to namespace in that static text field. It's not going to pick it up because it's in the context of the buy now button is where you're able to use the connected data.
So we had when you click buy now, the buy now code, here it is running, and that's the place where it brings in sold to ship to instructions. And so only here do you get to have access to all these forms. The the form as a whole doesn't doesn't know about these other forms until the click has happened. So for the question for that static text field, being able to uh, directly use this information, it doesn't exist at the point where the form is loading. And that's why we had to do it. In this case, we got it from another form and then pushed it to display the name. Good question. So Any other last minute questions? If not, we will begin our closeout here. I'll just remind you that Low Code Campfire going on 2 days from today, Friday, 10 o'clock Central Time. We'll be happy to dig in any deeper in this, and then I'd be happy also to provide the tool that, or show you where the tool is that you can use to speed up your development by learning what's inside of these things. There's some one of the things about connected forms is that different variable types. We stayed directly into texts today, but other things like date, time, and radio boxes, list boxes, these different ones have drop down lists. Being able to get access to the data and knowing exactly what the name is, what the data is, it really helps to visualize it. So that's why if you're struggling at all in finding the right name to use, that having a tool to retrieve the data, that becomes important. So in any case, we thank you for joining us, Low Code Cafe. We'll be here again in 2 weeks, or at Campfire 2 days from now. We'll see you then.